Yeah, and I wanted to like jump in on what Kevin said earlier too about, a lot of people complain about, unless you're in the national capital region, you don't know what's going on. Well, just it's kind of like maybe a call to conviction here. If you have a complaint about it, like this gives you an opportunity to do something about it. I'm like, stop complaining and join up and let's do this,
Yeah.
Welcome to the Humorless Lot podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. We do not represent the U.S. Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, or the U.S. government, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. As the hosts of this podcast, we also understand the risk we are undertaking by expressing our opinions, but we do so for the betterment of our 0402 community. If you have any concerns about anything you hear, please contact the producer listed in the podcast description. We hope you enjoy the show and that you'll look into our other community tools on Facebook, Discord, and Teams. Thanks for being here. Semper Fidelis.
Welcome back to the Humorless Lot. We're joined today by our friends from the Association of Marine Corps Logisticians, and we are going to talk through Operation Jumpstart, AMCL Symposium 2023. We'll start off the podcast by talking through a little bit of intro, background of what AMCL is. We were lucky enough to have its founding members here, all 0402s, who give a little bit of background of what motivated them to start the organization. And then toward the end of the podcast, we'll talk through the highlights and things we can look forward to at the symposium next week, which is taking place at Christopher Newport University, 8 to 10 August in Newport News, Virginia.
Really looking forward today talking about the Association of Marine Corps Logisticians and specifically getting into the symposium later in the episode. Excited to hear, especially from the president. I've heard a little bit about what the organization, so many people. I met so many people that I've seen as just online personalities, right? Got to listen to them speak, got to hear the different ideas that are bubbling up in the Marine Corps that we're talking about. A really common complaint that I get from logistics officers across the Marine Corps is that if you're not in the National Capital Region, if you're not in the NCR, then you don't really know what's happening with Force Design 2030. You don't really know what's happening with modernization of the Marine Corps, specifically when it comes to logistics. If you're not tied into the programs that Marine Corps Warfighting Lab or Installation and Logistics are pushing, then you don't really have a handle on what is happening, or Marine Corps Logistics Command. It helps to have symposiums because it gives everybody a place, their collective projects and interests, and everybody to be able to sit down and have a meal together and talk things through. It was a really great opportunity to attend that last year, and I wish I could be there this year, but hopefully this will help get the word out there. Sir, if you'd like to jump in, Colonel Spangenberg, we'll go first with you, and then we can just go around the horn.
Sure. So thanks, Kevin. As Kevin said, my name's Kirk Spangenberg, and I am the president of the association and co-founder of the Association of Marine Corps Logisticians. I am an active duty Marine colonel coming up on, I just passed 26 years. It is important, I'm currently serving in my active duty capacity as the commander of Marine Depot Maintenance Command, part of Marine Corps Logistics Command and headquartered in Albany, Georgia. But importantly, when I'm involved in the Association of Marine Corps Logistics, or Logisticians rather, or AMCL, I do that strictly in my personal capacity because AMCL is a 501c3 nonprofit that is wholly independent from the Marine Corps entirely. And so we all do this as volunteers in our personal capacity. Now, what is AMCL and how did it get started? So back in about 2018, me and a few other logisticians, Rob, who's on the podcast today, and Jason Fincher, we were talking about, our experience as logisticians, and we first started getting together as to come and submit a proposal for the first logistics innovation challenge, right? And we thought, hey, we had a couple of ideas, and we said, let's talk about this need that we have for community the aviators have an aviation association, engineers have an engineer association, and we as Marine logisticians, we grow up in every element of the MAGTAF. Infantry officer, and I know many of them are wonderful folks. They grow up around, centered on the infantry battalion. A pilot grows up and around and centered on the flying squadron. We're in every element of the MAGTAF, sometimes alone and unafraid, us and just a handful of other logisticians. Sometimes you're in the MLG where you're surrounded by logisticians, and I'm sure many of us have experienced our career when you go out on an exercise and your log community and logisticians are shaking hands for the first time, where some of the other elements of the MAGTAF are already, they have established relationships, they know each other, they operate well together, and we're learning each other's first names. As Jason Fincher used to say, you don't wait till the sounds of gunfire to start exchanging business cards, right? So we thought, why don't we form a community? And then we decided, rather than submit it as an innovation challenge to be, built, or so we don't really need to do that. We just go do it. So we wrote a charter. We established ourselves as a 501c3, and we went off with something else with the Innovation Symposium, which Innovation Challenge, which actually did win about data-driven logistics. But so we formed the Association of Marine Corps Logisticians, and what that is, we really exist and we aim to enhance and really cultivate the Marine Corps logistics, supply chain, professional community. We want to promote quality professional development of Marine Corps logisticians, identify and share DoD and industry best practices, provide an open forum for the development and exchange of ideas. That basically encapsulates our mission. And what we really want to be is an active, influential, innovative professional organization that serves our entire community, combat service support, logistics, and we want to do that through mentorship, working, and professional education, serve really as that hub of interaction and collaboration to share ideas across the DoD, industry, academic professionals, so we did that. We formed it, and we started hosting things. Right, we got together at a bar and invited the deputy commandant for installations and logistics to come speak to a group of people. And he did that for us. And it was great. He got to share that, Kevin, as you said, bring us up to speed on what he's thinking. We invited other professionals. And then we went out and visited places that Marines don't get to see very well. We went and toured an Amazon fulfillment center where we got to see their autonomous robots and how they do logistics and supply chain. We had a session at a brewery where, yes, we did sample their product, of course, but we got to see how their supply chain operation and kind of apply that to some of the things that we do. We did a number of events like that. And then, of course, COVID hit. We sort of all went into COVID defilade for a little while, and we eventually figured out how to do things online. And we did some virtual PMEs. We had Kevin Stewart, General Kevin Stewart, before he retired, give a sort of a professional discussion. We did that online, lots of attendees. And then we held our first virtual symposium. We were still sort of coming out of COVID. So we weren't yet ready at that time in 2021 to get everybody physically together. So we held the first virtual symposium back in 2021. We had enormous support. The Commandant, who was originally scheduled to speak, but then got pulled away by the Secretary of the Navy at the last minute. His office provided a letter for us that which we were able to present online. We had lots of panel discussions and keynote speakers. Then 2022, last year, we delved into the physical in-person symposium, and then we're doing that again this year. And it's been really successful. We've had a tremendous outpouring of interest, it helps us to really just get together, get to know each other. Again, mentorship, sharing of ideas, and collaboration. So that's kind of what we're about and how we got started.
Hey guys, this is Rob Cranston. As Kirk mentioned, as a co-founder, I serve as our treasurer and as well as a mentor to our team and the group and whatnot. And I tell you, Kirk hit it spot on. And this whole community of practice and Scott, you were talking about this a little bit earlier, of helping each other out. And that help and that growth continues to be just tremendous momentum as we have industry best practices, and as well as the frontier of what are logisticians and facing adoption of different types of technologies. And we want to get in front of that in this platform that we have, which is, whether that's an article that's been written for other magazines of other organizations, nonprofits, or others, we'll take those different types of articles that don't make the cut perhaps, and we'll offer those on our platform. And so that's a differentiation. And we want to talk about how we do differentiate ourselves, and why would you join us? We continue to have this ability within this organization to expand in the future of what are going to be basically communities of practices, but this continued growth as chapters in regions as we go. And that's one of the themes our team here, we get into the symposium discussion, is we're going to really talk that through and have that as a theme throughout, to get involved and taking part and being involved in the committees and the evolution of where AMCL is going to be going. So and fire away with other questions you have for your community. And by the way, humorous lot, guys. Love this podcast. You guys have got a great thing going. So appreciate you guys having us.
That's right. I certainly want to give a shout out of thanks to the Humorless Lot for hosting this podcast and allowing us to talk. I would, one more thing, Kevin, to hit on what you said about, if you're not in the national capital region, you often don't know what's going on or what have you. And, certainly some of the content that we've developed over the past is available on our platform to go back and watch again. But when you come to the events, and Greg will talk a little bit more about this when we get to the symposium, but you'll hear from folks at CD&I and to talk force design overall and INL, and all that. I don't want to steal all Greg's thunder. He'll cover all the topics that we're going to talk about this year, but that's kind of what we've done. We often cover, from the most senior leaders in the Marine Corps, what's going on, where the Marine Corps is going, to cover that enormous gap that sometimes exists between what's occurring at the headquarters in the Pentagon and what's actively happening out in the FMF. So we can bring all that together, not just at the symposium, but as we do other things throughout the year as well.
Let me riff off that, because that's really important, because that really, these communities, we're talking about Marine Corps, Navy, the collective ecosystem that we have as logisticians, but we're going beyond that and connecting that into a much larger sets of innovation, adoption, as I mentioned before, but also other communities of federal agencies that have a logistics type of sweet spot, and connecting that, whether that's NATO, other host nation countries. So really important that for those out there that would love to attend, which by the way is 8 to 10 August at Christopher Newport University. And you're gonna hear that again, but we would love to, continue to share that development of logisticians beyond just DoD.
One other thing to add, I'm sorry, I keep rambling, but to pick up on, Rob and I are riffing back and forth here. It's really great. So one of the things we know, and we are the Association of Marine Corps Logisticians because we're Marines, we founded it, we want to help our community. But what we also know, particularly in force design, is that logistics is increasingly joint and increasingly combined, right? Yeah. So one of the things as logisticians, when we grew up through the formal schools and training systems in the Marine Corps, is very focused on the execution of tactical level logistics. And we know that as a gap in sort of our professional education and training. McLog has done some great things for that and others. But when we're bringing logisticians together, you'll note that when we have events, they're very joint, right? We have a lot of sister service logisticians come and participate, and how we can plug in with them. And then you'll see at the symposium some multinational participation from our allies and partners. So it's really great opportunity for us to get together with them and not just hear about it in a school setting about the theory of integrating with our allies and partners and our sister services and the Joint Logistics Enterprise, but physically get those people in the same room together meet, exchange business cards, get to know each other and really talk about that degree of integration. So that's another thing that we're bringing to the table.
Yeah, and I wanted to like jump in on what Kevin said earlier too about, a lot of people complain about, unless you're in the National Capital Region, you don't know what's going on. Well, just it's kind of like maybe a call to conviction here. If you have a complaint about it, like this gives you an opportunity to do something about it. It gives you an opportunity to organize locally. It gives you the opportunity to meet with logisticians near you. You could lead one. It gives you the opportunity. And if you get a group of logisticians and you go to a Fortune 500 company, say, hey, I got this military outfit. We really love to just learn what you guys do. You're going to get people that want to participate, and you're just going to broaden yourself, not only for like your military life, but also civilian life. So I don't know if maybe I've been listening to too much Jocko, but I'm like, stop complaining and join up and let's do this.
Yeah,
we will definitely talk about opportunities to get involved and do things like Scott is talking about. It's always been a part of our vision. We're still getting there in terms of establishing local chapters, and and as Rob gets into or the other parts of the conversation get into, why should I join? Like, this is kind of what we bring to the table. You come together, you establish a chapter, and we can use some of these resources that we put together to bring in speakers, to bring in content, to set up tours at wherever Marines are, right, at your local base and station. It is important to note, of course, that this is not just about 0402s, if you will. This is everybody that's involved in the process of logistics and combat support: officer, enlisted, multi-MOS, multi-service, active, reserve, retired, industry, academic, multinational. So it's broadly inclusive in that regard, where the topic area is logistics, but we're not, from a membership and participation perspective, certainly it's not about an MOS designator. So I'd add that as well.
Yeah, and so you can go to MarineCorpsLogistics.org, and there, those out there that are listening, so we've got membership and partner plans. And what's unique about what we wanted to set up was having something that's affordable, that's customized in these type of memberships that that are reasonable. Active duty's $30 a year. Active duty, a 3-year plan's $85. Then we've got a retired civilian, $40, and then it scales up. And then we've got what are industry partnership. We have a gold, red, black level partnership, 500 gold, 1,000 for red, 1,500 for black. Now, that being said, again, the advantage and the continuation of this organization of having what is a reasonable membership type of plan is that it's the right thing to do. Number one. Two, it gives you a platform, as we've been talking about, to voice these continuation of unique industry best practices, everything else that we've got inside what is force design and practice. And but we also have this education plan. We're going to be building upon the education platform, where we're going to be bringing in what is a shared resumes and sourcing and resourcing that way. So it's going to be an active platform for us as we continue to go. And these memberships are about on average between 10 and maybe, I don't want to say 40% less than what you would see in typical like type of membership dues in other organizations, nonprofits. So back over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to jump, because this is where the hard questions come, because this is where like my
Sure.
scheme is going. Well, where's that money going? Like,
Yeah, it's a great question. So part of it is this, what we have is, as mentioned, as we keep talking about, is symposium development, right? So the symposium development and symposium costs, we actually set that up with a partner called Event Power, and they are part of our building to the symposium. But we have inherent organic costs that are in sponsorship and building to that platform, and really the use of facilities as well, which is a large chunk of that cost. That, and then we have a lot of production. So our production costs and production of what we and editing costs of, as I mentioned before, when we get and we're going to get hot on this as we go forward again, But when we get articles, when we get other type of, we're going through the editing process. We have an editing software. We have, and then we have organic back office functions. Running a business, and by virtue and fortune, I run a business now, and we're using some of my experiences with that to be able to be able to navigate some of our inherent or organic or working capital costs. So it's going to be chapter development costs. We're going to have a chapter development. Those are part of membership dues, or help supporting what is the organic growth of chapters. So those are the three kind of buckets and bogeys of what are funding and what are really the expenses, the large expenses for our organization.
So yeah, I'd just like to jump in on that as well, Scott, because it is a great question. Like, hey, when paying memberships, what's happening? What's the organization doing with that money? And certainly, it is important to note that all the leadership and the folks who are running, they're all volunteers. Nobody takes a paycheck or anything like that. But just to run an organization has some cost to it. And as we do these symposiums and we get these sponsors and industry partners that generate sort of funds that we can then use to return value to our members. And so as our volunteer base grows, and this is where we'll pitch heavily about to the folks out there who want to really get involved and help us grow the value of what we do back to the members. And we have then resources that we can apply to programs. And as Rob said, whether it costs money to run a website, for example, and host a platform, those sort of things. But as we build that war chest and we grow chapters that need funds to go hold events, then we can sort of start providing for that. And again, funding, training opportunities, all those sorts of things. So the revenue that we generate or the resources that we garner are intended to go towards returning value to the community.
We saw it as something similar to AMCL. I think we all got started at the same time, but I think as they've grown, and this is the opposite of what Kirk said about, AMCL is very broad. It is an opportunity to bring in everybody and talk about logistics with a Marine Corps style. The humorless lot has been very much focused on just 0402 development specifically. So for me, having grown up just like all of you gentlemen as 0402s in the Marine Corps, I personally felt like there wasn't a lot of resources for my MOS to share ideas, share experiences, talk through problems, have a network to just reach out to and say, hey, I have a problem with this. Has anybody experienced it before? Yes, absolutely. People have experienced those things before. That specifically is what Humorless Lot is. And I really see Humorless Lot as a supporting fire to AMCL. We want to take the people that we converse with and talk in this, smaller community and bring that into the bigger community.
It takes this, community of us to say, okay, hey, where do these pieces fit? And I love that. And in fact, that idea and that thinking, Kirk and I and Finch years ago, we thought, oh, let's have a podcast, kind of running podcast. But just resources. Again, we just didn't fire it up because of other thing. Well, quite frankly, the symposium became our real targeted and our focus, right? But I love it. I think that's a perfect platform partnership. And
it does cost money. Yeah. It does cost money, and someone is fronting all the money for this. So.
Well, hey, that's our membership benefit, is getting that into, again, additional
the ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's good. Greg, so we just talked a little bit about the differences between AMCL and Humorless Lot. All the stuff that we've talked about before, just Humorless Lot being kind of more of a niche 0402 specific community with liaisons from different communities coming in and helping develop 0402s, but with the mindset that, hey, we're here to help 0402s do their jobs better, logistics officers do their job better.
Logisticians better. What is to you guys, back to you, I mean, what is that magic sauce you're really carrying? What's that carrying card right now?
So from my perspective, and Scott, Greg, feel free to answer as well, what has come through in, we haven't done a lot of podcasts. We've done a few podcasts so far. the conversations in the podcast have always come back to relationships. That's what it always comes back to, is developing relationships amongst the human beings that are behind the computer, sending the emails, taking the human experiences that we've all had over the last 30, 40, 50 years, people that we've interviewed and talked to, and relating that back to what we're doing now. And that's what it always comes back to, is the human to human relationships and learning from each other. You can have as many spreadsheets as a logistics officer as you want, but if you can't humanize that and turn that data into something that people can use and absorb something from, then it's somewhat worthless. So that's, if I had to do a
Cool. No, it's
2-minute
great.
elevator speech,
Yeah,
relationships.
yeah. Spot on in terms of the broader industry of logistics across all of those disciplines and verticals inside, the same. It's absolutely spot on.
So true. And I used to, when I was a lieutenant colonel commander, I commanded the Marine Corps Logistics Operations School, and I used to tell the, one of the programs of instruction we did was, of course, logistics officers, and I used to talk to them, and I would tell them, sort of as part of the graduation speech, that logistics is a relationship business. Throughout our careers, we almost always have to work with, depend on, rely on other people, other organizations over whom we have zero authority, right? And in many cases, no even formal, solid line or dotted line on an org chart. So it's really important to know people, and when you can reach out and say, hey, I need some help, or can you, or whatever, that when you know that person and you already have that relationship, the answer is, yeah, what do you need? Let me see what I can do, or I can't do that, but I know somebody else who can. That's the network is so important, so important.
Yes, sir. And it goes even further when the first time you're reaching out to them is not when you're asking for something. If you have that relationship built ahead of time,
That's
just
right.
because you want the relationship, you want to be a good person and just be in touch with people, it helps a lot when you're then reaching out and saying, hey, I really need something, right?
That's right. Rule of life number 1, don't be a jerk, right?
Yes, sir.
Be easy to work with.
I also find that, like, when you need something or somebody, it's really cool to not have, like, I guess the gal or SharePoint or whatever, but I mean, there's been so many times where I've had questions. I've just gone to Facebook and control find on the Humorless Lot page, or go to my Discord and kind of flip through stuff. So it's for that, it's been super helpful to even just to connect with people. People have questions every day that they're posting on Discord or on the Facebook page, and other people are responding. So just a great opportunity to reach out broader than the 2 or 3 people that might be around you at your battalion.
Yeah, and that's a plug for the Humorless Lots. I like to call them bar fronts. You've got a Facebook page, which not everybody's on Facebook, and it's fine. We've got a Discord site, and then for those that are in the Marine Corps, we've got a team site, which you have to have a common access card to access and get into, and that's where we put a lot of our control unclassified stuff, sensitive material that we don't want to share to the greater world. We have it on our team site. Great stuff in there. I've had a continuous flow of Marine logistics officers getting in there and looking at after action reports, templates, billet descriptions. I mean, all kinds of stuff in there that is more specific to the active duty or reserve logistics officer areas. But Discord, I know Discord got a lot of attention recently about leaks and stuff like that. It's just another place where you can build a community. Control F is really good in there. Unlike some other social media platforms where they block out certain things after certain time periods, Discord's great about just an entire repository. You just type in a keyword, go look for it. You can find all kinds of stuff. If you're going to, for example, Norway, which we have another podcast episode coming out soon. Whenever I get to editing that, that talked all about cold response in Norway and kind of started the conversation there. It was good. So, all right. Enough about Humorless Lot. We're here to talk about AMCL. So I think this is a great transition point to get into the symposium. And
can I get a plug in real quick for AMCL again? I gotta. I'm in the middle of.
Oh, look at that! Oh man, what a beauty!
This is real expeditionary logistics here right now. Scott recording while walking through the airport / warehouse with his kids. How he's at the mall. Okay,
man. I love it.
No
good,
fail
Scott.
mission. No fail mission. No, I do want to say, if you are interested in joining the AMCL team, I mean, the leadership here, it's kind of write your own adventure right now. So if you have an interest outside of logistics or whatever your day job is, and it's in information operations and messaging or public affairs or finance or operations or leadership, I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do here that I think would scratch that itch for you. And the leadership's really good about taking, like Janelle, just some phenomenal ideas and putting them into action. So just want to put that plug in before I go.
Greg, give us a little background. Tell us who you are, and then we can just launch right into what your role is for the symposium and give us a little taste of what people can expect this year.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I'll just chime in with a little quote from JFK, just tagging on what was said recently. Ask not what your AMCL can do for you, but what you can do for your AMCL. And you can insert the humorless slot in there as well, but come jump in, get involved. I got involved a couple years ago. I was in the virtual one, and then it was in last year's live and helping with plan with this year's. So my background started out, actually my logistics career started and ended in the Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, Hampton Roads. I went to logistics school at the time they were holding it at EWTG Atlantic, Expeditionary Warfare Training Group Atlantic at Joint. Well, it wasn't Joint Expeditionary Base, but it was at Little Creek. Rob Cranston went to that a couple classes before me, and a couple other logisticians. The Marine Corps since moved it to Camp Lejeune. So graduated there, went to 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, was the MMO, Maintenance Management Officer, 4 Alpha there, traveling all over the Pacific. And Kevin and Scott and Rob was actually out there, 3rd Marines, 3rd, I think it was CSSG. I know they were always renaming things. But so 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, which is now the base battalion for 3rd Marine Littoral Regiment. So awesome to see that Fortes Fortuna Juvat spirit living on. Fortune favors the bold. So Norwich 96 grad. After so then obviously basic school, log school, went to 1-3. From 1-3, I went to the DoD Inspector General's office. I was evaluated there for International Programs and Logistics Division. And so that was kind of interesting, jumping right from the tactical kind of strategic level, writing reports of audit for the Secretary of Defense and going around to all the combatant commands as a junior captain, asking hard questions to colonels and generals and things like that was pretty eye-opening and definitely gave me a joint flavor. From that, I went to Marine Wing Support Squadron 171, which Kevin is familiar with as well. I was the 4 there, and then the Engineer Operations Company Commander. Got to get back there in wonderful Iwakuni, Japan. Got to work in the Pacific again, Korea, and elsewhere. And then I got chosen to go to. I became a regional air officer at went to Navy Post Grad School, studied national security affairs there. After that, I went to the transition team at U.S. Africa Command. I was in the J5 there. It was the XO for General Buzz Altshuler, the first J5 strategy plans and programs director. I got to travel around Africa a lot. I actually got to the shores of Tripoli before all the Odyssey Dawn stuff, and took off and landed at the airfields we'd bombed in '86 at with El Dorado Canyon, and all over. And then got to be the Morocco Mauritania desk officer. Again, a great joint assignment, getting the opportunity to just work with all the services, work with our partners and allies. Found out about the program that the National Guard has called the State Partnership Program, which we'll discuss as we go through the symposium. After AFRICOM, I went to got to do my LCE time with Combat Logistics Battalion 7, and that's where I met Scott Smiley, who is always smiley, even after he gets off a convoy in the Helmand Province. Just got a big smile. Welcome back, Scott. Roger that, sir. Heading out on a 3-mile run after all day on the road with Rippets and Cliff Bars. Scott Smiley was beating the feet around Camp Dwyer. Just a great guy. So had the good fortune, I guess, after all my other great assignments, Stuttgart, Germany, Hawaii. It's the Marine Corps gave me a back-to-back tour, so I got 29 Palms twice. I went from COE 7 to the Marine Corps Logistics Operations Group. Was a plank holder there, instructor, taught force deployment planning execution, maritime prepositioning force, that sort of thing out there. And then, full circle, escaped 29 Palms and came to the Marine Corps Security Cooperation Group, which has since been disbanded out here at Fort Story, and did a lot of security cooperation work in Africa, and then retired out of here. Almost got to diamond status with all my trips to Africa, just shy. That would have been a great feather in the cap. Since then, I've been a contractor at the Navy Expeditionary Combat Command, NECC, which is at Joint Expeditionary Base Little Creek, Fort Story, working with the Seabees, Navy USG, Navy EOD, and so forth. So I had a great time there. Currently working at Cana as a principal logistics analyst, also working for a company called Command Holdings Group, doing business development, and then working with the Association of Marine Corps Logisticians and another group called the Future of Hampton Roads, which is focused on building up the Hampton Roads region and encouraging cross-pollination and work across here in Hampton Roads. So excited to be part of that, and really excited about this symposium. So I'll just kick it back to you. I'm happy to jump right into the schedule if you'd like, but
yeah, just to add on to the end of that, if you need connection into any community related to the military, talk to Greg, because Greg knows somebody. Greg will connect you with somebody that you can talk to, and he has been a mentor for me in terms of what it looks like to have an effective network of who you're talking to and how you're talking to them. Greg always had great interactions with you, and I know that you are, building these relationships not just because of the benefit to the business side of it, because you really care. So this is why I'm excited to hear what you have to say about the symposium. I'm glad you're the chair this year and getting everything set up. Yeah, very interested to hear the schedule and what people can expect here in about a week time frame here. I'll get this podcast turned quickly so we can get it publicized. Over to you.
So
awesome.
If I could do a quick intro, if you don't mind. So when we envisioned the symposium, again, it's about bringing everyone together, but it's called Operation Jumpstart, from aspirational to operational. And why did we do that? So last year, actually at the President's Social on the first day of the 2022 symposium, we were talking with some folks, and we've done a really good job over the last few years of bringing together folks to talk about sort of the future, because that's been the discussion. Force design, what's 2030, in terms of advanced technology and where we're going to be and what we're going to be doing and all that. There's been some really good discussion about what's happening in the future. What we wanted to do this year, and the reason we titled it an operation, because sort of operationalize that journey. What's happening right now today that's sort of serving to jumpstart that journey to getting us from that sort of aspirational view of what's going on in the future, where we're going to be. So what's our path to get from right now to there? So from aspirational to operational. And so we that's really the thought process of why sort of that catchy title, and why we chose an operation name instead of just something else. So we brought in a lot of the speakers that are going to help us really talk through whether it's advanced technology, training and education, talent management, what's going on in certain local communities. We'll actually hear from some politicians, in fact, in a nonpartisan sort of way, of course, but from those elected representatives who can talk through some of those things, and other key leaders. And a lot of the theme that you'll hear is kind of things that are happening now that are pushing us down the road towards that future we all envision. And with that, I'll turn it over to Greg to kind of talk through some of the specifics of the symposium.
Good intro. Thank you, sir. Greg, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So yeah, the idea, aspirational, operational, exactly right. We've seen a lot of these OV1s and different pictures, lightning bolts and things moving, and it is a picture. And we say they're aspirational. And I know the Commandant a couple of years ago with his War in the Rocks article came out with talking about FD 2030 and just put it out there. This is what's going to happen. And there was obviously there's been a lot of spin. FD 2030 has been in the news a lot, and with some critics and so forth, and that's interesting to follow. But General Berger, who was since retired, has just been a tremendous advocate for the logistics community, and we thank you for that. Calling it it's the pacing warfighting function, and so we are very appreciative of that. We're excited that the new Sergeant Major elect for the Marine Corps is a logistician, Sergeant Major Carlos Ruiz. So we think this is just a great era for the logistics community in the Marine Corps. So we're excited about this symposium as a way to talk about that, talk about how we are going to support Force Design 2030. What are the new things, equipment that are being developed? What are some of the innovation things taking place? How will those new pieces of equipment or new robots, artificial intelligence, so forth, how is that going to impact logisticians do their job, or to do their job? And as Kevin was saying, I think networks are entirely important, and this is a great networking opportunity. We've done, and the team that's been involved with that has done a great job of bringing folks from across the services. Brought in some tremendous vendors with vendor pool. We're going to have some phenomenal wargaming events. We're going to have an innovation workshop that's going to be going on throughout, sort of an iterative event where government and Marines and industry members can all talk and talk about sort of needs and wants and just some solutions that are out there, technologies that are out there that can be tapped into. So really excited about that. I do want to say that as far as relationships go, I heard, and I can't remember who actually said it, but there was a war game that went on either at Navy War College or Navy Postgraduate School, something like that. But they one of the injects to this war game was an unofficial network of logisticians. And I thought, wow, that is a perfect example of what both AMCL and the Humorless Lot are. Is this kind of non-attribution Chatham House rules group of people where people can cross-pollinate, share ideas. We understand the value of the actual chain of command, and we totally appreciate that and respect that, and respect the nipper and the sipper and so forth. But it's a great place for people to talk, and that's exactly what this symposium is going to be: a place for people to sit down and listen, and also digest ideas. There's going to be obviously dinners and lunches and breakfasts and opportunities for people to talk informally. So, without much ado, I'll go. I've got the. You can go to AMCL, look up the AMCL Symposium 2023. There is a link on there that will show you the actual symposium that is being updated. So you may see some changes in the time frames and the panel titles, but pretty solid. And that'll be very, very solidified here in the next week, obviously.
Highlights. I think that I just went through the agenda. The agenda is really good. Like I'm excited. I wish I was there. We're not doing anything virtual, right? This is all in person. Nobody can tune into it.
So I think there's a couple of speakers that are live virtual.
Okay.
I think what we can say publicly is a couple things. One, for registered attendees, the content will be available on the platform after the fact, and we are exploring with the and Greg, stop me if I get this wrong. We're exploring with the IT capabilities of some of that being sort of live virtual. Like we had some of that last year. That's a little bit harder technically to do for people to live dial in. But again, for registered attendees, and by the time this airs, Greg, I think it's okay to release that some of that will be virtual. Is that right?
Yeah, there's going to be essentially a Zoom that will go out with a password for registered members that aren't able to come in person. And we held that back by design. We really want to encourage in-person attendance, but obviously we've got Marines scattered around the world. So we will be pushing that link out here in the next week. So like Kevin, we want to dial in, for instance. So
yeah, I'd love to dial in. I mean, even if this stuff is getting recorded too and gets pushed out, that will help advertise for next year as well. And that's kind of what I emphasize is I would love to go back. And even when I was there, I wasn't able to go to each one of the seminars. It'd be great to be able to go back and re-listen and watch what was talked about in the other rooms and hear what people had to say. Just great for development for logisticians.
Once that platform goes live, and it remains live for a few months after the event, folks who were registered can go back on the platform online, pull down the topic, watch it again, whatever. But last year we did have, for example, General Maxwell was presented from his hotel room in Nevada as he was traveling, which was really great for us, but live. And we had questions both from the in-person audience in the room, and we even had a question come from a remote attendee. And so that was really good sort of participation globally on that one. So we hope to do some of that again.
Cool. Greg, do you just have a roll-up of highlights? Like, I know we can access the agenda online, and the layout is presented really well on the website, but do you have any highlights of what people can expect at the symposium?
Yeah, sure. I think the obviously having General Banta there is going to be great. Hearing about Forge Design 2030 and how the Marine Corps community is shaping for that. So that first day is really going to shape sort of where the Marine Corps is. I would say the second day has a more of an innovation focus. We're going to have like Marine Corps Warfighting Lab. We're going to have a panel on fighting through the Valley of Death that will bring some industry folks on there that have successfully navigated the so-called Valley of Death to get a program of record or a contract in place, and just some best practices on doing that. And that's going to have some venture capitalist type of flavor to it. And we're also going to get Marine Corps Warfighting Lab will be involved with that. There's the Marine Corps Innovation Unit's been invited, Logistics Innovation Unit. So we're excited about that one. Then there will be an innovation panel that's focused on how the different MEFs are innovating at the tactical level, tactical/operational level, and actually taking some of these tools and what's going on in each of the MEFs and each of the MLGs with regards to logistics innovation. So we're excited about that. The next day will be, and both on Wednesday and Thursday, there will be these iterative workshops. One is going to be a contested logistics wargaming workshop that will follow on the heels of the contested logistics wargaming panel. So the workshop's going to be going on all of the second day, and that's going to be an opportunity for different organizations and individuals to drop in with their institutional perspective to talk through that wargame and inform that. And we're looking to collect that data, and that will be packaged into something that a product that will come out of that for all the folks that attended. And then the innovation workshop is going to be a little bit of an industry mixer, but an opportunity for folks to say, here's my need, and another person, maybe an industry or so forth, say, okay, here's a solution, or here's a possible solution. And so a little bit of a matchmaking type of thing. It's not an official SAM.gov industry day by any means, but hopefully it's a starting point for a lot of great conversations. We will have a data and panel that looking at how we use data to cut through and help make decisions better. We've got the author of Ghost Fleet, Burn-In, and Like War is going to be our moderator. He's also going to be our closing speaker. Very excited about that. Kevin, if you've read Ghost Fleet, bad things happen in Hawaii in the future war. But we're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. And that's the value of useful fiction. So really excited to have Peter Singer there for that.
They put up a fight, though. They put up a fight.
They put up a fight, right?
I won't give it away. But I've read all of Mr. Singer's book. So yeah, keep going.
Maritime mobility and littoral distribution. It's going to have Army watercraft, and also it will have MARAD type strategic sea lift officers involved in that, and also some Marines. Just hearing about some of the new things going on with how we operate in the maritime terrain. So we've got a couple other speakers that we're still pending from the region that we're looking to have to jump in. So I'll hold off on them until we get them confirmed. But it's going to be a phenomenal event, and I hope you all can make it in person, or if worse comes to worse, virtual, especially folks like you, Kevin, who are out there on the front lines. So back over to you.
So Kevin, if I could just kind of summarize to package it all up, we are really excited about AMCL 2023 Operation Jumpstart from aspirational to operational, which is again 8 to 10 August at Christopher Newport University. You can read a lot about that at amclsymposium.org online. Of course, you can catch more about AMCL overall at marinecorpslogistics.org on our organizational website. And as Greg mentioned, once again, that's amclsymposium.org, all one word. And you can catch the sponsors out there. You can see the agenda and the speakers and their bios. And all of that's good. It's really cool. And we're just so excited to have some of the most senior leaders in the Marine Corps, certainly DC INL General Banta, the Commanding General of Marine Corps Installations Command, General Maxwell. We have, in the, multinational, our British counterparts and other NATO partners coming and their senior leaders, tremendous representation from industry, and of course academia with Center for American Studies there at Christopher Newport University and others. So it's going to be really, really exciting. We got 3 packed days about everything that you want to talk about when it comes to logistics and what that means to the Marine Corps from now into the future through force design, other things. It's all there. So stay tuned, and we hope to see everybody there at Christopher Newport University, 8 to 10 August.